hello everyone out there. You can hit that, which is cool.
What's going on, y'all? It's my first time actually doing like a live stream, so this is a little bit different. But so far, what we're doing is we're looking at the Carmelo Anthony jury deliberations and seeing what comes about from there. So right now, it's just a waiting game, but I wanted to know people's perspective, what they thought, and started getting conversations going, especially in the chat. This being the first time, I wanted to try something a little bit different before we end up releasing the Rico videos and the other videos that we kind of got going on right now. It's a few videos that we're gonna be dropping later on tonight, but man, just trying to see what's going to happen with this situation, man. It's crazy, but I want to know what y'all thoughts are. Let me know what you guys think. Do y'all think that he's going to be found guilty? Do you think he's going to be found innocent? Or do you think he's going to be found guilty of a lesser charge?
Breaking news into the Fox 4 newsroom. A verdict has been reached in the trial of Carmelo Anthony. That verdict announced at 2:05 today. Jurors will enter the courtroom along with the media and prepare for a 2:05 reading of that verdict. We will bring you that information live as soon as we have it right here on this page.
How many people think it's murder compared to how many people think it's manslaughter compared to how many people think he's going to be acquitted completely? Now, let's say, hypothetically speaking, if they end up acquitting him, do you think that there's going to be some type of riot? Hold up. Let's listen in.
He is the way, the truth, and the life. That goes for everybody. White, black, brown, yellow, and green. We come to declare the name of the Lord in this place. We're not racist.
A verdict has been reached. A verdict has been reached. Looks like it's going to be announced at 2:05. 2:05 is when the announcement is going to happen. Central Standard Time, though. Central Standard. Not Eastern. Obviously not Eastern Standard. about 8 minutes out from knowing the fate of Carmelo Anthony. I'm steady refreshing my timeline just to see if there's any updates. So I know that at 2 o'clock, that's when it's going to end up being released. If you'd like to support, go on the website, grab your Big Shot ammo, jug, merch, earmuffs. Got a couple of earmuffs going out today. Shout out to Big Shot family that's been able to support. Probably deliberated. I think it was like, what, a 5-hour, 4-hour deliberation. Quick verdicts. Well, that all depends. It can depend on a lot of different things, but usually it's not good. Verdict is in, y'all. It said that they deliberated for about 3 hours. Make sure y'all tune in, man. Y'all share this. Share this. Make sure you sharing it, liking, hyping it up. I need y'all to share it, man. We need more viewers, more people that type in. Like, hype, and share it up, but hey, this is crazy though, right? This is crazy.
Sandler is right here, so
He is, yeah.
you're in contact with him.
Yeah.
No, I don't know where they are.
What's going on, family? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Seeing some of y'all in the chat. What's going on? How y'all doing? First time of me doing a live stream, y'all. First time me actually doing a real live stream. Been trying to figure this out for a long time, so happy to be able to do this with y'all live. You feel me? But y'all let me know what y'all think, man. Do y'all think that the dude is guilty of murder? Do you think he's guilty of manslaughter, or do you think he's going to be acquitted on self-defense? 3-hour deliberation. I mean, it can be either way. Excuse me. Vex Cuomo, appreciate you, Vex. Hey, Southern Breeze. What's What's going on?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Rabb with Eat and Chuckle. We are in the Fox 4 Digital Studio. A verdict has been reached in the Carmelo Anthony trial. It's going to be announced in about 10 minutes, and we're watching now the tension that is growing outside of the Collin County Courthouse.
A verdict has been reached, y'all. Y'all
People
gotta
are
share it
holding
up.
signs
Y'all
there
gotta
and
share it up.
chanting, as you can see,
Share, like, and subscribe, and hype it
noise,
up.
The chants are getting louder and louder. This
People
jury
need to
started
be able to tap
deliberating
in
at
real
around
quick.
10:52 this morning. So they have been deliberating for 3 hours, and we know they have reached that verdict, which will be announced at 2:05. This whole process really has moved fairly quickly. If you think about it, just last Monday,
Tadzia Parks.
Jury selection started.
Tadzia Parks.
And by Wednesday, the jury
3671.
was seated. And over the weekend, prosecutors rested their case. The defense
Yeah, I
rested
feel
its
you.
case.
It's a loss on
Yes,
both sides, man.
And what's happening right now, this is the tension that has been growing in Collin County since 2025 when this took place. Okay? And
Come on, bro.
these
Y'all
kinds
don't
of
have to do all of
face-to-face,
this. It's unnecessary. Y'all just
emotion-rising,
being
shouting
extra,
matches,
bro.
really do no good, but we've seen them become
Bro.
more and more intense, even as this trial
Y'all
has
see
progressed, Eden, as you were talking about, since last week. Emotions are boiling high on both sides.
You can.
These
You can definitely
kinds
call
of
me
verbal
Mr. Ammo.
confrontations that
Definitely.
we're looking at here right now, Eden, just show us really what's right under the surface that has been brought out with this particular
It's
case.
just not.
Absolutely, and I
like,
think
all of this is
it's
not
probably going to paint the picture
necessary.
of how things are going to be once the
Yeah,
verdict is
bullying
announced,
do have to
which
be
we are
stopped.
waiting for at 2:05
'Cause a lot of that
this
is
afternoon,
intimidation.
so in less than 10
Trying to
minutes.
intimidate
But
people.
we're already seeing tensions. And this is how it's been over the last couple of days, but really now we're seeing it escalate.
All of
as
them,
people
all
are
of them need
facing
to
each
have
other,
cooler heads
holding
prevailing.
signs,
Y'all know my
yelling,
motto.
chanting.
Conflict
and things
avoidance
appear
is
to
your
be
most
getting a little
what?
hostile.
Logical
and
and
certainly
prudent
we
course
hope
of
the cooler
action.
heads will ultimately
All of
prevail
this
here.
is just emotional banter.
Emotion does not help
Nobody
or
wins from
change
this.
anything that 12 people have
Not
decided
him, nor
about
him.
Carmelo Anthony's future.
They're just gonna say that they were there.
Let's just talk about that. He could be found guilty of murder, and there's never been a question about what happened. It's been a question about what happened. In other words, he never denied. In fact, he admitted that he did stab the young man, Austin Metcalf.
I don't
That's
know
not
where
the question.
Jake
The
is.
question
Where
was
is
it
Jake?
murder in the state of Texas?
Where Jake the
You have
Snake
to
at?
prove intent. Did he intend to kill or cause
Jake the Snake.
serious bodily harm?
Surprised
cause
you
death?
ain't there.
Or was it in fact
look this
self-defense?
up. Where you at, Jake?
As he has maintained and his defense team has maintained, or will this jury acquit him and find him not guilty and believe it was self-defense, or will he be found guilty of manslaughter, a lesser charge?
Right, and that was the case this morning. So the jury was able to consider manslaughter as a lesser charge to first-degree
he
murder.
may be out there.
Obviously, manslaughter
I think
is
Jake
a
might be out there.
reckless killing. Meanwhile,
not on this
murder
camera.
includes the intent that this was
he
deliberate.
did make
that
a
he
post 2
intended
hours
to
ago.
do this. So that is the question here. Was this intentional, or was this kind of just a quick reaction to fearing for his safety and claiming self-defense? So we're going to see which way the jury leans with
Of course.
this.
And depending on what the young man is found guilty of, that changes the range of punishment. Murder is 5 to 99 years.
True, he
The
had no
manslaughter
reason or
charge
right to
carries
put his
2 to
hands
20.
on him. But the
So
thing is
this
that
jury will
is it
ultimately
cause
also
for
decide
deadly
punishment
force. That's
once the
where,
verdict
you
is
know,
announced, the punishment
and
phase,
that's where it's a
should start
disparity
today because
of size
the
that can
time
come
the
into
verdict is coming,
play.
2 o'clock.
If it was
So the
more
punishment
than
phase
one
should start
person
this
that was
afternoon.
jumping him
And then
or
certainly
jumping
tomorrow will
on him,
continue,
that could come into
and
play.
which has
If
moved at a
not,
rapid
it
pace.
will be in the
Trial will
heat of
probably wrap
passion.
by
That's
then.
where I would say manslaughter would make sense.
So we have our
'Cause
Lori
all of
Brown,
that
who
will
was
be
in
in
the
the heat of
courtroom. So she had told us
where
that
somebody is
if the jury had
accosting
reached
you
a
and
decision by 2 o'clock,
that wouldn't
that
be
the
first-degree
sentencing
murder.
phase would, the punishment phase would play out starting today.
Yeah, he ran
But
to the
if
coach
the jury were
in
to reach
fear,
a decision
and that
later on at
shows
4,
intent
then that would
of him
happen
not
tomorrow.
having,
So it looks like things have moved quickly, as we've said.
No,
it's hard to believe.
let's
that just
say
last
he doesn't
Monday
have, he
was
didn't
really
have the
jury
intent
selection, and now
to murder
the jury has
or
come
to kill
to
or
a
to do anything
decision,
like
which we're
that.
going to
He-
find out in 4 minutes. So hopefully
That's
this
what
starts
that
right
would
on
be
time
more
at
so,
2:05. But as
recognized
we're watching
as.
right now, live pictures of people protesting, of tensions escalating, of just kind of a hostile
You know, they
picture
gonna
that we're
always,
seeing right
like,
here. It's something also important to note. I mean,
I wouldn't
this
say that
has
he was
been
the
a racially
aggressor. I would say
charged,
that Austin and his
case,
brother were
right?
the
And
aggressor.
the
It's
defense has
just
argued
they
this
will
was not
say,
about race.
why didn't he
Race is
just
not at
walk
play here, but
away?
as we can see here, I mean, you see people
And
who say,
the thought
no,
of it is
race
that
is
if
at
it's
the
still
center of all of
raining
this.
and I'm not trying to put myself in a worse predicament, I don't have to.
And
The only thing is bro
the judge
doing
as
all
well
of this
in this
right
case
here. This is
said it was not a case
unnecessary.
about
This
race,
is
but he cannot
antagonistic.
deny
This is like I'm
just the
trying
facts
to
of the case
provoke
and what we've
a
seen play
response.
out
Like
since then
even
and
with
what
this, like you got the
what's
you got the
happening now
policeman
is
sitting up there
the defendant is black.
right
victim
behind you, bro. You don't
is
even
white,
like, yeah, you can jump around, but come on,
bottom
you
line.
know what you're trying
But
to
again,
do.
this is what I alluded to when I said this has brought out what's bubbling right beneath the surface.
He's like, I'm not touching
This
you.
should
This
be
is
a
so
question
petty,
of
bro.
whether
Take that dude.
one youth,
So you got a do rag on in your
acted in
hairline
self-defense or
like
whether he
mine.
committed murder. Period. And if justice
Yeah,
is blind,
listen
that's
to the
where
Texas
rests.
Ranger. He's like, bro, just come
But
on.
of course, even as
Bro,
you know,
take
all
that
the
do rag
three
off.
blacks
You do not
could
need
have
no. See,
qualified
that's
for
why I got the
jury
do
were
rag
stricken
on.
by the prosecution.
Boy, hairline worse than LeBron James.
Challenge early on, the judge.
All that jumping around, that do rag then came off, and you on national TV with a terrible hairline.
Carmelo Anthony.
Right, there were three potential black
How you
jurors
on
who,
national
could have been
TV
on
with
the
that
jury,
hairline?
and I believe either
You
three
done
or
jump.
just
I
a few of
swear they
them
about
are
to clip
educators,
this.
and so they felt
They
that they
finna
could
clip
not
this.
be a part of the
finna
jury. So
clip
there
this.
was some controversy surrounding that
They
decision there.
finna clip it.
I feel as though we should probably.
Oh
give some
my
background
God, no, they
information to
finna
wait
clip
for,
that like
the jury to
when,
announce
when
its
doing
verdict.
too much
This was
goes
a
wrong.
12-person
Dog
jury. There
start
were
that
6
hairline.
alternates. That
All I
included
saw
11
was
women
this
and
coming
7
back.
men. No black jurors,
And there was
which
no
really,
hair. As this part kept coming back, it was just no hair. It was, I'm like, dog, hold on, you bald like me with a do rag? Then it just come like right here. He got like that Stephen A. type
Carmelo
joint.
Anthony was sitting under the
Boy, he
Memorial
got
High
like that
School
Carl,
Team 10. And something interesting that was
Carl
brought up
Winslow
yesterday
slang.
is
See,
one of the
Rangers
students who
like, bro, come on now.
testified was asked, is this
Come on,
normal?
come on now.
And he said, when it comes to track and field, it's
Yeah,
not
if he wanted
rare,
to, if that's the
it's not
excuse, keep
unheard of.
the
It is
sun
a
off his head.
social, sport
trying to
where
keep the
sometimes
sun off his head.
people from different schools are under another student or another team.
He trying to
10.
keep that thin hairline from being
And
caught in
so
one of them
but he didn't
videos.
say it
That's
was-
what he
it's
don't want.
common, or it happened often, but it was something that took place from
boy
time to
hairline
time.
is
So if you
atrocious.
listen to some of the testimony of the witnesses, and again, the state, I believe, called
What they
21
talking about
witnesses
here?
from memory. The defense, I believe, called a half dozen. Some of those witnesses for the state said it doesn't happen, it's rare, it doesn't happen at
He
all.
was definitely
But
doing
the
some.
defense says, hey, it does happen. So that's kind of a draw there.
like
Who's
some
telling the
nice
truth there,
little-
right? Does it happen? Doesn't it happen? Okay.
The
The
cardio
question
jumps
is
real
what happened
quick.
under that tent, and whatever happened.
Nice
if
little cardio exercise,
Austin
get his heart
Metcalf
rate up.
Put his hands on young Carmelo Anthony.
You know you're
Did
old
it-
though. Like you know you're in his
did
30s, probably
defense,
early
did the violence,
either early
that
30s or
responded to
40s.
that, was it above?
You know he
what it
got
should have
tired.
been? Was it?
And you know that his knees
That's-
start
that's
hurting.
the
That's why he stopped.
Was it in
Like,
self-defense?
yeah, you know
Was
what?
it vicious intent to take his life? That's what the jurors are asked to decide.
Anger started coming down. He started
Let's
getting
also get
lightheaded.
into some of the closing arguments.
You know how that be.
Attorney
When
Mike
you start
Howard,
getting
this is,
mad,
for
and
the
then you
defense-
come
the
down
defense
from that
went first
madness.
during closing. Oh,
Okay,
okay.
let's go to Alex Boyer.
Blood rush come down. Hold on, is there a verdict?
Alex, when I spoke to you
it's
during the
time.
noon show, you said that you saw prayer circles. It looks like things are certainly different now as we are watching what's unfolding behind you. Just describe the mood. What is going on? It seems like there's a lot of tension.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to step out of the way so that you can actually get a better view.
What we
for
talking about,
what
y'all?
we are seeing here right
What we
now.
talking
We're about
about?
20 feet away from the other camera angle that you guys have been seeing at this moment. Can you guys hear me in the studio? Can you guys hear me back at the studio? Okay, so I'm standing about 20 feet back from where that other camera angle is, where you've been seeing some of these live pictures. So we're kind of standing behind the crowd. I can tell you that there are barricades that are lined up right at the end of this driveway that has been closed off the entire time. This trial has been in session to try to minimize the amount of people
Loophole
who are
up.
driving through and accessing this area
Loophole
that
up.
leads into the front of the courthouse. I can tell you that just within the past few seconds, I've noticed some of the crowd disperse a little bit.
yeah.
I can tell you that it appears
Dominique?
that we have a heightened
Yeah.
police presence that has
They
shown
reached
up
it about 15
within the
minutes
past,
ago.
few seconds.
About to,
seems like they're trying
read
to
it
show
off at
kind of some
3:05.
unification here
Well,
in front
2:05
of those
Central Standard.
barricades. I'm counting about. Looks like at least 7
So
or 8
right now-
uniformed officers right on the other side.
See,
of
dog.
that barricade,
Hey, y'all.
separating this
Hey,
crowd
dog on Fox News.
to the
His hairline is on
courthouse.
Fox News
Of
right now. I
course,
swear to
high
God.
As we get into
Looking
now
at his
just past
hairline.
5 p.m. when we know
His hairline on
will
Fox
get out
News,
back
I'm on.
inside the courtroom to hear what that verdict is. You know, I can tell you when I first got here, a few
His
minutes ago, when I
hairline
heard
is
that
on
verdict
Fox
was going to be
News.
announced. People were initially
No.
scattered out of the way, kind of standing under trees since it is so hot out here. When they heard that there was a verdict that had
Oh, yeah,
been
it's
reached,
definitely
that's
gonna
when
be
you
a lot of
started to see
trolls.
people, some of them running towards the front here to kind of get a spot as close as they can.
Ooh.
And then they began chanting,
people saying
many of
some
them
racist
talking about
things, boy.
justice for Carmelo. I'm going to throw it back to you in the studio.
Your coverage, by the way, has been simply outstanding. You and Lori Brown have done great work since the very
Bro,
beginning
I'm
of this.
telling you,
And now
dog
we're coming to
hairline
this
is going
heightened
crazy on
emotional,
the internet.
A culmination, at least to the guilt or innocence phase of this trial. Then the punishment phase, the sentencing phase, will begin immediately.
Yes, we are expecting, or we were expecting that at 2:05, and it looks like the jury has reached a verdict and it's going to be announced. So we're going to bring
Waiting on
you
the verdict, y'all.
details as soon as we find out what they have reached. But I think we should probably reset, if you're just joining us right now, as to what is going on right now. The jury started deliberating at 10:52 this morning, and at 2:05, they have now reached a verdict. We were waiting for that verdict to be announced. 2:07 right now. These things
Y'all
sometimes
be
take
praying,
some time.
man.
And things have
Praying for
certainly
everybody
escalated
involved.
outside of the Collin County Courthouse. You can see law enforcement out there trying to, keep everything calm, trying to get people away, it looks like, from the steps of the courthouse, but tensions are rising. At one point we saw two people very close
Not
to each
sure
other
where Jake
exchanging
Lang
some
is,
words,
and I'm
and we
not
could
sure
hear
what that's
yelling.
SPLC
Earlier,
funded
when we were on the
KKK
noon
and
show, Alex Boyer was outside of the courthouse, and he was saying that he saw prayer circles. At one point, I think we were hearing someone chanting in the background and speaking. And so things have certainly escalated even within the last, I would say, 2 hours
Bro, yo,
that he's been out there.
he-
and
he-
I'm
see, he
sure
readjusted
once
that
this
do-rag.
verdict is announced, it will only get worse. But this, as you mentioned, Sean, this doesn't really
He
help the
fixed that
situation
do-rag.
here, right? The verdict is the verdict.
Right. It doesn't. And it could lead to even people having conflict with police out there and getting arrested out there because of their emotions. These moments are very tense and very intense, but you have to control your emotions in this moment. And so we have to watch that as well as watch what's happening in the courtroom. It's going to be coming down
Y'all
to the
make
jurors
sure
to
y'all
back
like,
in.
share, and
It's
subscribe,
very lovely that
man.
They're being polled individually, asking if the verdict is theirs and theirs alone, and then that'll be
Hype
read
the
by
video up
the
too. I
judge
need
of
y'all
the
to hype
courtroom.
this mug up. Hype
What
it
that
up.
verdict is.
Hype
And
me up.
because this trial
Hype me
really
up.
has moved quickly, I kind of want to get into some of the developments that took place this morning. So the jury was able to consider manslaughter as a lesser charge to first-degree murder.
Yeah.
Manslaughter is, just reckless killing, right? He did not, arguing that Carmelo Anthony did not intend to kill someone, he just happened to kill someone. Meanwhile, murder includes the intent that this was deliberate. So the jury is having to decide between manslaughter as that lesser charge or first-degree murder. Now, as we talked about this earlier, the difference really is the maximum sentence, right? So for manslaughter, the maximum sentence is 20 years. For for murder, first-degree
that's
murder,
cool.
the maximum sentence is really
I appreciate
life
you
in
for letting me
prison.
know,
So Carmelo Anthony was facing between 5 years to 99 years in prison. During
Well,
closing
shit.
arguments, the state actually waived the right to open, so the defense went first. And so on Carmelo Anthony's side, his attorney, Mike Howard, argued that Anthony was invited into the tent by somebody he knew and that nobody had the right to use force to eject him in terms of,
True indeed.
some of the witnesses have said
That
he
is
was
was true,
pushed,
too.
he was shoved. They used different words to describe that physical altercation there. Attorney Howard also claimed that Anthony did not have the right to, the right to defend himself against somebody much bigger than him. That was something else that was brought up, was the difference in size between both of these 17-year-old boys. But prosecutor Bill Worski, he argued that
People
Anthony
going
showed
crazy
up
on
with a
X.
mindset that, which is why
On
he had a
Twitter.
knife with him. Prosecutors argued that self-defense is not a defense in this case because Anthony provoked Austin Metcalf into pushing him when he said, "Touch me and see what happens." So the question here is, was this self-defense or was this deliberate? Did he intend to do this? What happened here? That is what the jury is going to have to decide on. Or was this a case of manslaughter, as we just mentioned, the lesser charge that was presented this morning to the jury that they could also consider?
And in a case like this, you talk about Bill Worski waiving his opening opportunity in closing arguments. That's a strategic move, right? Prosecutors, because the burden of proof is on the state, they get to open, the defense makes its close, and then they get to rebut that, to have the last word. He wanted to stack all of his time, so he deferred, if you will hold ours and reserve it and wait, so he could have this powerful, emotional, planned close, which is what he did. That's what an attorney is supposed to do, to try to press their claim to the jurors. And the last voice you hear, maybe the last impression.
Let's get over 100
So we'll have
viewers
to
up in
see
here.
what this jury decides. One of the interesting things, and I think we've talked about it a little bit.
Appreciate
on our air,
everybody
is that
that's been
Bill
tapping
Worski
in, though.
And Toby Shook have worked together in some of the biggest cases. They were both prosecutors in the same time at the Dallas County District
Oh, it's
Attorney's
three
Office.
options.
Some of the most historic
Taurine,
cases
you
in
got
North
guilty
Texas.
of
They
murder,
worked
not
on them
guilty, and
together.
guilty of manslaughter.
Even as special prosecutors for a case down in Kaufman County, where an assistant
there's three
district
options
attorney
on
was
the table,
assassinated.
pimp.
And now they, on another historic case, are at opposite tables in the courtroom.
And we will see how, how the jury decides, what decision they have come to. We are waiting for them to announce their verdict. This case certainly got national attention, I mean, really from the very beginning. Whether you live in Texas or not, I think many people have heard about this case. We've seen national media come over to Collin County outside of the courtroom. We've seen TikTokers, YouTubers. I mean, it has gained a lot of interest. Again, these are two 17-year-old boys at the time. There was no evidence that they knew each other prior to this incident, but it has garnered a lot of attention, and so I think that is also part of the reason why you're seeing so many people out there. It has raised a lot of just emotion
And
too.
mainstream attention. New York Times,
Yep.
CNN,
Three options to be
Fox News
considered.
Channel, News Nation, all covering this, and we've seen either family members of these folks involved, or those who are speaking for them, all across TV in the weeks leading up to this trial. Now, even though Judge imposed a gag order on those immediately involved, there have been those outside voices, those surrogate voices that have been speaking for both sides along the way. So with the sheriff's deputies there now, the Collin County Sheriff's deputies, things have quieted down somewhat. They were there and kind of
Intense.
allowing people to have their voice, but they've kind of stepped up their presence as we're now getting closer to learning what that verdict is today.
Something that was interesting to me during this trial is, and this seemed to have shocked some people too, is we did not hear from Austin Metcalf's twin brother. He did not testify during this trial. We also didn't hear from Carmelo Anthony either about this. And I think that was probably strategic too in terms of not having them testify.
Well, first, since you mentioned Carmelo Anthony first, let's talk about that first. You cannot hold it against me if I don't testify in my own defense, even if my defense is self-defense. If my attorneys feel like we have proven our point, we have proven our position without your testimony, because remember, anytime you take the stand, you open yourself up to cross-examination. And a skilled attorney, no matter how innocent you may be, a skilled attorney can press his claim through you. As for Austin Metcalf's twin, I don't know that they felt like they needed to bring that emotional wound to the surface to press their claim and prove their point to jurors. Through video, through tearful testimony of many of their 21 witnesses, I think folks relived that moment. We heard about how they were trying to do the chest compressions, and we heard all of that. I think they felt we don't need to bring him back through that and let him live through that moment. Remember, the family members, as the medical examiner talked, as some of that testimony went forth, the family members of Metcalf left the courtroom. So no need to put him through that trauma in front of the jury. I think they felt they were okay without that. And I think the defense felt the same thing, that they were okay without Carmelo Anthony taking the stand.
And for people who are watching and maybe wondering too, the prosecution called 21 witnesses. Initially, I believe 35 witnesses were expected, and the defense called a handful of witnesses. I think I've heard from different legal experts that the defense really doesn't even have to call witnesses in this case. All of this falls on the prosecution side in terms of trying to prove that he is guilty. So that is why, if you think, oh, there's a disparity, why were there 21 witnesses on one side and a handful of witnesses on the other side? That is probably why you see a higher number on the prosecutor's side.
Well, sometimes less is better. Okay, we believe the jurors are back in the courtroom according to the families are in the courtroom. Okay. The judge is not yet on the bench. The families are now back in the courtroom. And, time is very flexible. There's something in Texas called legal time, lawyer time. And whatever it is, it's not what's on the clock on the wall. So this is a big moment, right? And this is going to be a moment for these jurors. They've been brought into this. It's a supercharged case. Maybe they hadn't reached conclusions. And we hope that they were honest in voir dire, that they had not come to any conclusions about this case. Certainly they heard about it to some extent. You can hear about a case and not make conclusions about it and still be a great juror. And we pray that's so, but they've been in this crucible. They know what's happening outside. They know the pressure on this. And so we'll soon hear the verdict in this case. We'll soon hear the verdict.
Yes, we should. As we've talked about this, this has gotten national attention, which is why so many people have come out to protest, on whichever side that they're on, to whether it's to defend Austin Metcalf or Carmelo Anthony. And so it looks like things have certainly calmed down. That was not the case when we got on about 20 minutes ago or so. So I guess that's good news there that things are starting to calm down. But we're going to see, how all of this plays out. And we'll go from there. This was a 12-person jury. 600 people were part of that initial jury selection. They narrowed it down to 12 people. And over the course of 2.5 days, the prosecution called 21 witnesses. The defense called a handful of witnesses. And so now it is this case is really in the hands of this jury. It is up to them. They have made their decision. And so we are patiently awaiting to find out what that decision is.
Yeah,
what have they
fact,
decided?
It's done now. They've made their decision. They've come to a verdict. And we'll soon hear that. And then the punishment phase, sentencing phase will begin. And Austin Metcalf's brother is in the courtroom next to his mom right now. And so this has been an emotional burden for all involved. All these kids are good kids. They all had good grades. They all had bright futures. And in a moment, whatever happened under that tent has derailed a number of lives here.
I think it was also during the trial, people have talked about how emotional it was. I think you mentioned this too, Sean, that having to see the surveillance footage, having to see just what unfolded in the moments after this altercation, this interaction between these two 17-year-old students. And so, this is probably, I would imagine, emotionally taxing for both sides, for both families, and to just consider that a lot of these friends who were part of the track team, who went to school with both students, it's got to be very emotional for them as well to be a part of this and to witness all of this play out. So we will see, what the jury has decided momentarily. Again, we were expecting for that decision to be announced at 2:05. It is 2:20 right now, so they're a little bit late, right? We're a little bit 15 minutes behind schedule, but I think that sometimes happens in these kinds of cases.
Right, and so we're really not late. If we thought it would come at 2:05, it could come at any time now. We know it's coming. We do know it's coming. Families have returned to the courtroom. I can tell you there are sweaty palms, there are sweaty foreheads, hearts are racing. Everyone in that court, on either side, everyone in that courtroom has the same kind of anxiety at this moment as they wait for words that will echo in their hearts and minds long beyond today.
And there was question about, okay, well, how long is this jury going to deliberate for? That was the question this morning. We were wondering, right? Because this was kind of their first time really talking to each other about what the evidence that was presented to them, right? So this is their first time, saying, well, I thought this, or I thought that, or what did you make of this? And so really for them to come to a conclusion, to come to a decision within 3 hours of deliberating, I thought, okay, that's fairly soon. Maybe we'll expect it later this evening or tomorrow, but it sounds like they have come to a consensus.
Sure, and really there's no formula for how juries work. Over my years, I've had an opportunity to interview a number of jurors. Oftentimes, they'll return to the jury room and immediately take a vote to find out where they are in the room. And then they start working through evidence or questions or talking out loud amongst themselves from there to see which way they move, if they move at all. So we don't know where they started, but we do know starting the deliberations at 10:52 and then getting word when we did a little after 1, I guess, that they reached a verdict. They weren't too far apart, whichever direction they're in, and they weren't too far apart. It didn't take that much longer to get there. So we'll see if any of the jurors talk after all of this is over as well. It is 2:22 now, and we are waiting for the verdict to be announced in the Carmelo Anthony murder trial in Collin County.
That's right. The jury was able to consider manslaughter as a lesser charge. Initially, Carmelo Anthony was facing a first-degree murder charge. So now is this manslaughter or is this first degree? Manslaughter implies that this was just a reckless killing that kind of, in that spur of the moment, in fear maybe of his safety, he felt that he was in danger and he decided to defend himself. That is what the defense is arguing. Murder includes the intent. Was this intentional? Did he mean to do this? There were some people who asked the question of why did he bring a knife to a track meet? And there were some more details that were brought out about that knife.
So let me interject this. Lori Brown is in the courtroom and she is able to send out messages. And she is saying to us now that the attorneys are talking to the family members. And she believes that the attorneys are preparing the family members of the victims' families, the defendants' families, not to react to whatever that verdict might be. Judges don't like emotional outbursts in the courtroom, and it's important that families try and contain themselves. That's not easy. It's not easy, but that's probably what's happening now. And she says Carmelo Anthony, she believes, has his head down. She can't see his face. He's looking down. You might imagine, again, as I mentioned, sweaty palms, heart is racing, breath is short, because lives are in the balance.
It's a heart-pounding moment and kind of in limbo, waiting to find out what the verdict is. It looks like we have someone joining us on Zoom, Russell Wilson. Russell, thank you for joining us here. We are waiting for that verdict to be announced. What do you make of the fact that, the jury has been deliberated for 3 hours. So they reached a decision just before 2 o'clock. Just in your experience, what do you make of them coming to this decision fairly soon?
I think, it would be consistent with there not being much disagreement among the 12 jurors. It wouldn't necessarily take very long to resolve those disagreements. And so I think it was really kind of a narrow issue, if you will. There wasn't really a doubt about, who done it and how it happened or any of those types of things. And so perhaps based off of what they heard, jurors had a strong feeling one way or another. Eventually that came to a unanimous verdict.
Russell, it's Sean. Let's go in on what the two narrow really questions are. Narrow questions.
Yeah, I think one of them would have been, did they believe this was murder or manslaughter? And then if they did believe that it was either one of those crimes, that they believe that it was justified, and that, viewed from the standpoint of Carmelo Anthony. And they had throughout the trial extensive testimony regarding really an incident that took place, very quickly in a matter of seconds. And so when they're sitting there as jurors, even though they're not deliberating, they themselves are forming at least individual opinions regarding the evidence. And so the first time that you actually deliberate as a whole is in jury deliberations. But when you're sitting there through a trial and you hear testimony, it has to cause you to form an opinion or some thought one way or another. And so you're trying to keep your mind open as to things. And usually your mind is working your way through to one way or another.
Y'all make sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. If you can, hype the video.
Then the judge provides the law, and the law then either, affirms what your thoughts are. And so I think that was probably what was happening here. Again, in the scope of issues that cases could have, even though this is a, nationally watched case, the issues are kind of narrow.
Right. And you've talked to many of your jurors, both as a prosecutor and defense attorney. Do you find they retire to that jury room and, Russell, they kind of do a straw poll to see where they are on guilt or innocence, and then they start really deliberating and look at facts or evidence or revisit testimony from that point forward, if need be?
Right. Yeah, I think usually the first thing they do is select a four-person, and then they usually talk about that. They maybe spend time going back over the jury instructions again, which wouldn't take very long. And then if you take a straw poll or a vote and you see where people are at on issues, then you may ask a person why they felt this way or that way. And then if their recollection of events is different, or the reason that they feel one way or another is different, somebody may point out something in the law or something in the evidence that might cause the person to view it a different way. And that's kind of how deliberations proceed. And there's usually a few folks that we would characterize as followers, meaning that they, based off of their disposition, are more likely to follow a person who's firm in their belief. And so that usually, is how deliberations proceed. There's a person or persons that are firm, and then other individuals have to either be as equally firm for the verdict not to be reached, or they have to be open to a discussion. And over the course of that discussion, the firmer the person's belief is, then the more likely the verdict is going to go that person's way.
Okay, and so we understand now that the jurors are being brought in, and we don't have a lot of time to go into more about the minds of jurors, but you want both firm and followers on any jury.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I guess before we go to that, we're waiting to find out what the decision is. Let's talk a little bit about this trial in terms of, we did get more insight in terms of why Carmelo Anthony was under the tent, that he had a friend, that it was raining, he went for cover. But the defense never explained why he brought this pocket knife. It was just a small knife, 3.5 inches, why he brought it to the track meet. Do you think that in terms of, on the defense's side, was that a missed opportunity in terms of not explaining why he had that with him? Is that something that they should have gotten into, or is this a case of less is more?
I think they ultimately decided that less was more. I think their point was it was lawful to have it, and risking a violation of school policy was indifferent. When you think of a person having a knife, the knife is displayed, and jurors have to form a belief if they think that knife can be used for other utility purposes, or if it's there exclusively to be used as a weapon. So in the range of knives, if you will, one of the things is that that the knife was less than 5.5 inches, which suggests that under Texas law, well, not suggest, it is actually legal to carry it there. But it suggests that it also could have other potential uses.
And of course,
so
not having the knife cleaned, leaving the dried blood on the knife lends to the mind and imagination of the jurors those other uses.
Right. I think that, they decided that regardless of the reason, it did not sound like it was for purposes of a confrontation with the person that he didn't know he was going to be into a confrontation with on that day. So I think certainly you want to try to answer every question you can,
Right.
but every answer comes with risk as well. If Carmelo had testified, he certainly could have been cross-examined, and it might have been an opportunity for the state to go back through in a different way the events as they unfolded from his seat. So I think they weighed that out and decided against it.
Lori Brown is telling us now that Judge Roach is on the bench and said that we are now on the record to bring in the jury, warning those in the courtroom any outburst, a person will be held in contempt. Defense Attorney Mike Howard standing with his arms on Carmelo Anthony, and they are standing now waiting for the jury to enter the jury box with the verdict.
So at any moment, we will hear what that verdict is. Again, if you are just joining us right now, the jury started deliberating at 10:52 this morning. They reached a decision a little before 2. And so we were waiting for that verdict to be announced at 2:05. It is 2:32 right now. Sometimes, these things take a while in terms of getting everybody into the courtroom, explaining the rules. Our Lori Brown telling us that any outburst, a person will be held in contempt. So just kind of, letting them know what the rules are, just so that, they have rules in place and they want people to follow, those rules.
It says here, Lori is telling us, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder. That is the verdict from the jurors, according to Lori Brown, who is in the courtroom.
Okay, we're hearing that first. Guilty of murder. We are finding that out.
And I think Russell Wilson, with the brevity of this deliberation, I don't think that's a surprise to many people.
Well, right. So, what we know is that, they've rejected the self-defense claim. They believed that the use of deadly force in response to the shove was excessive. And that's not necessarily a surprise based off of the totality of the circumstances. So I think, that was their verdict.
Now we'll see what happens with this jury in the punishment phase.
Right. So we're probably going to see a brief break, and the parties will get a chance to gather themselves, if you will, and the judge would have to decide if he wanted to go ahead and begin the punishment phase of the case, maybe in 15, 20 minutes or so, or if he wanted a break. Given that he's got the jurors sequestered, I think that they will get back started on testimony probably relatively quickly.
Let me ask you a question. You have a client who is a teenager who's a 3.8 GPA, has no bad record, has no juvenile history, has no engagement with law enforcement, has made this decision that has left him guilty of murder. How do you work in the punishment phase? What do you try to do to live?
I think you gotta first you want to console your client and the family briefly, but you're gonna have to quickly turn to your anticipated punishment evidence, which is going to be the state again going first. You're going to hear more character information. It takes a while when you get an adverse verdict for the person to really accept and understand it. The state may be moving to have his bond held insufficient, meaning that if he walked in the courthouse today, that he won't be walking out tonight. Your client's going to have a whole lot of anxiety. You know, the range of punishments, 5 to 99 years. When you hear a guilty verdict of murder, you're certainly going to see your life flash before you, because you recognize you could face imprisonment for the rest of your life. The attorney, if you get everybody calmed down, you need to start thinking of your most mitigating factors. Probably here will be age of the offender and no criminal history.
And let me
And
ask you,
so,
while I
Go ahead.
have you, Russell, let's talk about the converse side of that. Let's talk about at the prosecution table. I have covered trials where you were the prosecutor and you
Right.
secured the win in the courtroom. You got the
Right.
conviction. What happens to the family of your victim in this moment? What do you say to them as the prosecutor?
you know, we're actually there's a sense of relief for them regarding the verdict being the verdict that they wanted it to be. But you're still preparing as well as the prosecutor. So you'd say, brief words of comfort. The family usually experiences some degree, like I said, of relief. And then I'm probably talking to them about who our first witnesses are. Maybe I'm wanting to go get, maybe I'm bringing a mom and I want baby photos. I want the graduation that was missed. I want the life to be expanded and explained, and for people to understand just what the loss was.
Maybe his
So
twin
I'm
brother
lining up
now, huh?
people. Yeah,
Maybe the twin
yeah.
brother.
I'm lining up people to um, to emphasize the impact of the death. And both of these young men, I think, had no known criminal history or things like that. There's no drugs involved. They're both in high school athletics. So both sides will be talking about the promise of the individual. And the state will, of course, be saying, our chance to come into our promise is gone.
Right.
And, the defense will be saying, that, the gravity of what was done is struck now in a different way.
Yes.
And they'll be getting, Carmelo's parents ready as well, I think, to testify.
I
And
just
so
want.
you're,
oh,
go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I was going to say, so you're likely to hear, the gut wrenching impact of death from the viewpoint of the victim and the viewpoint of the defendant. And you'll see a family. I don't know if they'll ask for a specific range or a specific number of punishment, but that's what I think is you're going to see unfold, and that's what we see unfold in punishment hearings on murder cases all the time.
How about the jurors now, too? I want to stay with what's going to happen in that courtroom because this is where we are now.
Right. Some of the jurors, it will depend. Some of the testimony was emotional. In very, very emotional cases, the jurors themselves still aren't going to be free to talk with anybody or anything like that. So I think they would need to remain relatively composed, and they have to still address what the punishment is. And there will be, perhaps broader disagreement on how you punish this crime.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got a universal agreement on, and then you have laws, when it comes to how you set punishment, the jury instructions are very broad. It just basically says you can consider the person's background and nature, but what makes a person say a life sentence versus what makes a person say a lower number, and how firmly they feel about any of these things. The jury instructions and punishment will advise jurors that it's an aggravated offense, meaning that any sentence that's imposed, that he would not be eligible for parole until at least one half of that sentence is served.
Correct. Correct.
And so jurors sometimes, although they'll instruct it not to, may say, if we impose a 20-year sentence, then he could not get out until 10 years. And you may have the prosecution, saying, that Austin would have lived until, into his 70s. And that's what we've lost. And so you're going to have those arguments shaped, I think, real time. And a lot of jurors will often say that it's more difficult
That is crazy.
To decide the correct punishment in the case. And these are tougher areas for the lawyers as well. There's not it's very low chance that a case gets reversed because the number is wrong, if you will. So you can't, if 20 can be right, 5 can be right, and 55 can be right. It's really all up to the jury. And so, the defense needs to attempt to put pressure on the jury, if you will, regarding the gravity of that. And the same with the state.
Right, because you wouldn't expect the state to suggest 10 or 20 years.
No, absolutely not. I don't think that they would suggest that. I think that they would suggest much more significant punishment numbers. This kind of gets into what we would see in the way of what we're going to hear in punishment. So without knowing what evidence they intend to put on, if it's just what I would call the emotional impact evidence, but they could get into, there may have been some scientific testing done, more information about Carmelo, maybe more about his background, and that, maybe more questions, more answers as to what would have happened in his life that would have caused him to appear with a knife at the track meet this day. So those are all possibilities.
We're just getting an update from Lori Brown in real time. She is saying that the jury has left for a break. The sentencing phase is going to start next. So if anybody leaves the courtroom, they will not be allowed back inside. Russell Wilson, thank you so much for your insight. We do want to see what is going on outside of the Collin County Courthouse. So our Alex Boyer has been out there since this morning. So Alex, if you can hear me, just explain what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what is going on around you now that the verdict has been announced.
Sure, Eden. And Sean, I have to say, I was really surprised to hear the kind of lack of verbal reaction or kind of loud reaction when people here in the crowd learned that Carmelo Anthony was found guilty of murder. There was a crowd gathered in the front, as you had seen a short time ago and have been seeing from our different camera angles, kind of gathered listening for those first words. They heard the guilty verdict. Many kind of moaned, and then the crowd has been like you're seeing it now. It's been interesting to watch from where I'm standing. I have not been able to follow the crowd as closely as some of our photographers. I can tell you that my colleague Amelia Jones is also kind of with the crowd, so she'll have more of that perspective as well. But the crowd has been very calm, some minor outbursts, and then they've been kind of following in like a group to one side of the courthouse to the other as my photographer John pans across our tent here and the trees. It's a little difficult to see, but then that is kind of where the bulk of the crowd is starting to move. So officers remain on the other side of the barrier that I mentioned that's separating the parking lot from the steps of the courthouse. Most people here seemingly seem to be...
All right, people. So I do want to have a conversation about this, because I do want to know like what people's perspective is. Like, do y'all think that Carmelo should have actually got on the stand and actually spoke his piece? Do you think that the defense not speaking to why Carmelo even had the pocket knife in the first place. When I was going through my initial videos, if you recall, I was even putting out theories about why you would have a pocket knife. I was saying that, maybe he's an outdoorsman, maybe he goes hiking, maybe he actually is outside a lot. You see him in other videos where he's surrounded around BB guns and other people that seems like they be outside. He's got on camouflage, things of that nature, right? I'm wondering if that did him a disservice of them trying to be like less is more. Because when you do the less is more sometimes, and just being honest with you, when you do take that approach of less is more, oftentimes it doesn't work. But sometimes it does, because sometimes you can over provide information and then that can actually help the other side. But other times, especially in times like this, you kind of want to over explain. And it seems like they kind of withheld more information than actually explaining more information. So just from my theory, just from my perspective, if I was on that legal team, if I was on his legal counsel, I would have definitely suggested that you put in some type of narrative to explain why the pocket knife even came into the place to begin with. You need to position that in there. But hey man, it's a hard thing, dog. This is a hard thing. Let's see what people saying. What's people's thoughts? They crucified Christ for not saying the word. Where's the footage? Wrong color on the stand, of course. Can't imagine living in America and as a black person. Hey man, what you notice is that it's just a two-tier justice system, to be completely honest with you. But because on one end you'll see that a dude can chase somebody 130 yards and they can shoot a teenager and get off on self-defense because the defense won't position a lesser charge to be put in. But even with that, they still didn't find him guilty of murder. On this side, they'll say that a 16-year-old 3.7 athlete who has never had any involvement with the police before, he premeditated or he committed murder. So it's just it's a harsh reality of people not it's just hard, man. It's hard, but some people are going to say, even other people will say that he was guilty. People will say that he was guilty. Yeah. Let's see what
or in
other
either
people
camp, people who wanted to see what justice would look like in this particular trial, and so they've seen it. They've seen it play out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. To your point, Sean, for many people, this was the first time they've ever come to a trial. And as you know, Sean, covering many yourself and Eden as well, what these trials are like. But for the average citizen and resident, this isn't something they experience every day. And this, of course, was a very, very emotionally charged, high-profile case that drew a lot of opinion and feelings on either side. Or as you mentioned, many folks just feeling bad, calling this a tragedy, which, of course, it was in it of itself. And then again, a lot of them coming today to the courthouse, wanting to be here in person for what you could argue, of course, is a moment in history, a sad history, of course, in terms of the gravity of the situation, justice being served by this jury, no matter what, how you feel about it on either side.
Absolutely.
So let me ask y'all this. Based on him getting found guilty of murder, what do y'all think that he will get? As far as years, do you think he will get? Because it can range between 5 to 99. Now, the likeliness of them giving him 5 is very slim, especially if they only took 3 hours to deliberate, and it is an all-white jury. We got to be completely honest here, and they removed all black people that were even considered. Like, they removed the 3 black women that would have been considered, but they removed every other person of color that would have been considered, where it was only, I think, out of those 3, even with 600 other jurors that could have been considered, they were the only 3 that were black. But here's what I'm wondering. Like, Y'all think he gonna get over 25? Y'all think he might get over 25? Like, I want y'all to think about this now. You already was thinking that he may get off on self-defense. That didn't happen. So knowing that they done convicted this kid of murder, he's in Texas, all white jury. What do y'all think realistically he might get? Matter of fact, I'm gonna create that. I'm gonna make that into a poll, so that way we can get a full what's that? So, how many years do you think Carmelo will get? 5. Let's go 15. Like, you know what? Let's go 10. Let's go 20. Let's go 25 plus. Alright, y'all let me know. Y'all think you're going to get 5, 10, 15 years, or 25 plus? Or even though, you know what, 5, 10, or 5, 15, 25, what is it? Let me double check. Shoot, Yep, 5, 10, 20, 25. So what y'all think, man? I see everybody jumping in there. Alright. Looks like 25. Oh. So far, it looks like 25 is getting more of the votes. 25 right now is getting more of the votes. 25 plus. Some people saying 10. 10 got the second most. But 25 looks like that's taking about 50% of the votes right now. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, man. You got to think about it. I want y'all to take your emotions out of it. Take how you feel out of it. Take how your emotions are out of it. You have to think about the reality of these people. This is why I cheat. I don't know how many times I be trying to tell people, but I try to tell people for a specific reason. This is why conflict avoidance is your most prudent course of action. It's not because that we don't have any real like capabilities of being right. Is that we don't have the justice system that's going to be balanced and look at it from that way. And to be honest with you, depending on what the defense put out there, if the defense didn't really counter a lot of stuff that would make it seem more like murder, you could give the prosecuting team the more justified stance of them saying that it was actual murder. It's all dependent on how how the defense actually did as well, because you got to think about it. The prosecuting team put up multiple kids up there. You got to think about that. I want y'all to think about, just from a psychological standpoint, those kids represented all of those people that was in the jury, all of their kids and grandkids. That's what that represented. Y'all didn't dispute or diffuse any type of thought process of why he would have a pocket knife. You didn't dispute or diffuse anything as far as the other narratives that they've positioned. I thought, and I'm going to be honest with you, I do think that the defense didn't counter those witnesses enough. And sometimes this is what I mean when I say some of those attorneys that do the less is more situation, it's kind of like a lazy job sometimes, because you think that you are positioning something in more, and here's the thing though, honestly, you don't know. You just don't know, because you could be doing a better job with doing the less is more. You could be doing your client a disservice with doing the less is more. You don't know. But in that instance, knowing all of that stuff stacked up against them, just my perspective, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't give any type of legal advice. But what I would say is, I'm going to try to dispute and diffuse all of the narratives that the prosecuting team is going to position. That's what I would do, and then on top of that, loft my defense as well. But I'm going to dispute and diminish all of those, because only thing that you sat up here and did was give more fervor for the prosecuting side with each witness, because even though the witnesses made certain different statements that were definitely not the same, the framework of it was pretty much consistent. And if you have a consistent framework, you're still, and then the people that you put up there gets diminished and demolished by the prosecuting team. It's like, bruh, you went up there and didn't do you did a half-ass job against them and their witnesses. But the prosecuting team come up there and be like, hey, didn't me and you have a conversation and you sat up here and we watched this video and boom, we saw this video and you said that you had misrepresented or miscounted a few things and this, that, and the third. Like, bro, you didn't do any of that as far as the defense. But it's a perspective. It's just my perspective. It's a thought process. But I want to know, y'all thought process. Let me see. Keep it cordial, because at the end of the day, both families lost. Like, let's not be oblivious here. Austin Metcalf's family lost. He's gone. And they had to relive watching that kid lifeless body on video right in front of them. And every day they got to see that twin who looks just like his brother and know that there was two of them at one point and now there's only one. So while I do understand that, emotions are high and people feel how they feel, at the end of the day, we do know that Austin Metcalf family can never go and talk to him again. Carmelo and them can go and still hug his mama. Carmelo can still go hug his mama. And they ain't finna give dog the death penalty. So regardless of what he gets, there's a chance that he can still have kids. Like, there's still a chance that he can have a normal, regular life after this. But this also shows that more people need to be more diligent on certain things. Let me see. Let me react to some of y'all comments, man. I'm gonna react to some of the comments. Anthony not allowed to pick lawyer. The state forced a DEI lawyer. Oh man, really? There are a lot of things they're trying to hide about Austin and his family. Rest in prison, Carmelo. Come on now, Big Tax. You can disagree with him, but spoil Mayo. Let's both of y'all don't. We ain't trying to do the back and forth. Let's not do the keyboard warrior stuff. Because we know at the end of the day, we all lost. We all lost. Because Carmelo is a good student, smart kid, seemed like 3.7 GPA and all that stuff. And because of one, and more than anything, this is what is about, is more of a learning lesson. This is where you teach mugs, like, on both sides. You don't need to sit up here and try to be Billy Badass and try to be tough. You don't need to sit up here and go and pick with people and do stuff because you don't know what this person has the capability of doing. Never underestimate your opponent. Bruce Lee used to say that all the time. Never underestimate your opponent. And then on top of that, on the other side, don't overreact. Don't sit up there and do the most. Don't walk away, all that stuff like that. Most prudent course of action is to walk away, all that stuff. You can go on both sides and say that there, and to be honest with you, if we're being honest, if we're taking all emotion out of it, if you just using logic, you would say, and let's just say if both of them survive, if Austin survived, and let's just say if it was just a cut on his jersey. Let's just say if it was a cut on jersey, nothing ever went of this. Nothing ever went of this. It's just a cut on his jersey and nothing ever happened. Everybody would be saying that both of y'all were doing too much. Both of y'all were being petty. Like, or in that, or they would say, Austin, you went overzealous, and then Carmelo, when the heck did you get that what's the name from? Like, you can find fault in so many different ways, and that's the thing about law school too. That's the one thing that you learn about law school is like you have to take your emotions out of a lot of stuff. This is why you saw the black dude that was, on the legal defense for Rick Child. Lord Jesus. But then even outside of that, it teaches you how to have a balanced approach, how to see it from every angle, how to see it from both angles and argue both sides. Because a lot of times you have to be able to. And I'm telling you, in law school, they will make you get on the other side, and you will have to come up with a great defense to be able to get that person off. And then you realize, like, dang, and then, oh man, I'm telling you, it's crazy the things that you deal with or you see when you're going through law school or you taking law classes and stuff. You really get exposed to like how lawyers think. They rewire their brains. Their active listening skills are on a different level. They pay attention to every word, every syllable that comes out of your mouth. It's crazy. Let's see. Do I have mods? I do, but you know what? They are not in today, so you know what? Boom. Fact checks and chill. You out here showing love. You showing this good love. You a mod. Go ahead, mod, and keep the people that is doing some like despicable word choices and stuff like that. We're going to put them on a little timeout. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little timeout. Little timeout. Go sit in that corner until you know how to act. And then you come back here and you talk to the family. But, yeah, man. So, here's the main thing, too. And I want to make sure that y'all understand this more than anything. Is that you could always argue either side. When you're in law school, that's what they teach you, that's what they show you, and that's what they try to get you to understand. Because a lot of times when you have clients, you are not going to agree with your clients. Do you realize how many divorce attorneys hate their clients? Do you realize how many other, like I'm talking about regular attorneys, they be like, bro, this person is a terrible individual. Terrible. They would never want to be around this person in real life. But they getting paid. You get paid. So you all be like, hey man, and then if you get, because you got to think about this too, you billing for like, imagine if you billing for $450 or $500 an hour. Imagine if you getting $450 to $500 an hour and you getting like $100 just to send an email. Just to send an email. Like, man, you gonna run that mug up. Your law firm gonna run that up. You gonna try to get as much as you possibly can about. You gonna squeeze as much as you can. I'm telling you. So yeah, and they gonna argue. Like, imagine if you got somebody. You know how many times lawyers have had to argue for child predators and stuff like that? Bro, it's sad sometimes. Let's see. Let me see what was put. Yeah, we don't want no hate stuff because I don't want to end up getting struck by YouTube, because YouTube don't be playing that stuff. YouTube don't play that stuff, bro. Like, they do not play about being reckless up in the chats. But let's just see what people have been saying since we went on our discussions. Let's see what people are talking about here. Or you know what? I might even go on Court TV and see if there's anything there. Let's see.
Be even worse.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. and we were on that break, this would have been actually a perfect time for us to hear from Carmelo. They should have put Carmelo up on the stand and let us see who he is. Let the jury read his demeanor, see him in his genuine form about how because at this point he's been convicted. So this was the opportunity for the jury and the defense to take advantage of and let Carmelo Anthony speak for himself at this point. I really think they should have at least put Carmelo up, if not just to, because his mother alone, we already know what his mother's going to say, that she loves him, he's a good kid. At this point, we should hear from Carmelo to see how he feels, if he's remorseful. That's going to make a difference when this jury decides how many years to sentence him to. Let us hear from him. I'm just so incredibly disappointed with the defense strategy of only putting up his mother and not hearing from anyone else, no other character witnesses. I just think was a disservice to Carmelo.
I told y'all.
You know, they had the opportunity to put him out in the guilt phase. That's one decision. That's a different decision because of the cross-examination. Here in the penalty phase, it is a much easier route. You know, you're going, but someone had to bring this kid to life more so than just through opening statements through your attorney. And you know, a few witnesses that talked about his education during the case.
I'll play nice in this chat now.
This is it. This is sentencing time. These individuals are easily swayed. You know, they're people in the public, and they all could be touched.
True, I can say
but
that
you
that
gotta
may have
go
been
and
a
touch them, Sonny. You gotta
may
go
have been a
try
thought. Chosen one. I can agree with that. Like there could have been that theory where it wouldn't have mattered.
In the initial officer that interacted with Carmelo said he did two. Right away he said, "I'm the guy. It's not alleged. I stabbed him. He admits it. Then he says it was self-defense. So he throws up his. But then the third thing he says is, "How is he doing? Is he going to be okay?"
Hey, fact check.
And it was one
Don't ban
stab.
Vex.
It wasn't multiple. A refresher course would have been nice, Sonny.
Yes, and I also don't think that when he stabbed him with that knife, you know, most of the time he's a
Vex don't be out here being crazy, boo.
He didn't probably think that knife and where he stabbed him was going to do anything but hurt him, get him to stop, but not die. And because most of the time, young people don't even have that type of presence of mind unless they have a gun or something.
Yeah,
but this
fact
is
check.
horrible.
Need you to
there are going to be
unban
a
her.
lot of people cheering for a very long sentence, but we don't know what the appeal could potentially look like. But I just really think that the defense team, as somebody who works for defense, I just don't think they gave their all. I don't think they did the type of job that was necessary for this type of case. And remember, I'm not saying Carmelo was innocent, because he was not. But I am saying that I just think this came back quick. I think it's going to be a high sentence. And I just don't think that the defense did everything that it could possibly do to mitigate a different verdict.
Yeah, we're hearing that Cody Thomas is making his way out of the courtroom.
How long did you put her on mute for?
And we'll be able to come down and
go ahead and unmute her
from his vantage point of what happened during the reading of the verdict, and then that very short sentencing phase. One witness, no arguments, and now the same jury who
Kevin,
found
give him a
Carmelo
chance.
Anthony
We
guilty
gotta
will
let
be
fact
tasked
check
with
do
deciding
this. Give him a
what
chance.
to do. What is the right punishment? There is a huge gaping void here between 5 years on the low end and 99 years on the top end. So this jury, who took less than 3 hours to decide that Carmelo Anthony was guilty of the top charge of murder, now has to decide where to land that between the 5 and the 99. Let's get a break. When we come back, we'll be checking in with our Cody Thomas. All of the reaction. He said in his notes that he could feel the tension in the courtroom.
Unmute her. Hold on there and be muted. Isn't that crazy, boy? Isn't that crazy? Go back to Fox. Conflict of interest. Let me see. But also too, Kevin, I do need you to make sure that Vex don't come in and do anything that's gonna get the channel striked or anything, or any bro funny. He said, "Give a person the power, you see their real self." He said, "No, but hey, we don't want the channel to get struck by any words that could be interpreted in a certain way." But overall, this is very draining. This is matter of fact.
Welcome back, my friends. We are.
I was gonna go on Twitter and see what they talking about, but we'll do that in a second.
Along with Eden Chuckle, as we talk now about the Carmelo Anthony guilty verdict, Eden, and wait to find out the punishment. Russell Wilson, Attorney Russell Wilson, is back with us. Russell, thank you for your insights today and walking through us the legal machinations here. Question: are you surprised there was only one witness in the punishment phase, that being the mother?
Yes, that is a bit of a surprise.
Told
that usually can only happen with some type of agreement among the parties, whether formal or informal.
Okay.
So normally we would see the state put on, if you will, their punishment case, and so to hear that the first and only witness, if I'm understanding.
Hey y'all, everybody hit the like button. We done hit 10,500 subs. Let's go. We done hit 10,500 subs. Let's go, baby. Road to 100,000.
This correctly was Carmelo's
We just hit 10,000. I want to say about like 2 days ago.
I think would mean that the state views themselves as having presented a very strong case for a very harsh punishment, and it would also mean that the defense has believes they've presented their best mitigating or reasons to seek lower punishment, that they believe they've presented that as well. So I think you mentioned earlier, but yeah, I think if that is the case, that the only witness we hear from is his mom, Carmelo Anthony's mom, then I think that it's a fair chance we would have a final verdict
soon.
Yes, yeah, very soon. I'm mindful, as I mentioned earlier, of the sequestration issue, and I think you guys were mentioning that whether or not the case was tried at a fast pace or not. But I do think when you tell people they're going to be sequestered, it's just more likely
that was muted at one point. Y'all just got out of timeout. Y'all better act right.
To prevent exposure to social media or other things outside of the control of the courthouse. But I think that same principle would hold true in a punishment phase as well.
Sure.
And so if the judge was saying he's going until 6 every day and we're at 3:15, and jury just, if they're on a break, then the only other thing to do would be to prepare the punishment charge. I talked about that a little bit earlier. And again, that's a much shorter charge than the actual jury charge, and the jurors are given a space where they have to fill in a line.
Right.
They fill in a number of years between 5 and 99, and they can enter a fine up to $10,000. But given the brevity of punishment, I'm expecting both sides to argue for the polar opposite ends of punishment.
Exactly.
And Russell, I know every trial is different, every case is different, but I think we're all kind of shocked that we're only hearing from Carmelo Anthony's mom. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Typically, how many people would you have normally expected to at least hear from?
In a normal, usually you may have at least 5 or 6 relatives.
At least.
Again, I mentioned certainly the possibility of testing. I mean, you pointed out we already know or appear to know he's a 3.7 GPA student. You'd hear this kind of from both sides. The attorney for the defense, Mike, he started out and he was saying a brother or son. So even in the punishment phase, you want to try to bring some of these notions back. The scope of admissibility is broader, and so there may be additional evidence that you want to put in. You could have strangers. Both of these young men, by being in athletics, may have encountered strangers, community service events, but other good, in essence, good acts of character that might cause a person to see you in a bit of a different light.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me interrupt. But when you said
I actually did unmute her.
Only having one witness portends the possibility that there's already some kind of agreement. Can you talk about, Russell Wilson, what that could be? Because in my mind, Bill Wersey's going to start out at 40 years or higher when he goes to this jury.
Right, and when I say some type of agreement, I don't mean to suggest there's an agreement on the number.
Okay.
But it may be, look, we have 10 people that can say he's a great person, and we say we've got 10 that'll say he's a bad person.
Okay.
We're just going to skip putting our 10 on and you skip your 10.
My fact
We're
check.
both
I
going to
ended up
argue what
I
we
messed
have
up
to say.
because I cleared
Something
everybody
along
up.
those lines.
I ended up getting rid of you
Could be
and Nana
like an
Boy.
informal
So
agreement
I had to make sure
that I'm
I
going
get
to
that back.
forego putting
Oh,
on
but
something.
yeah. If you talking
And I
about
think it's
stuff like
reasonable
that,
to
like
think
nah,
that,
we can't have
Bill
that.
Wersey would start at a
You talking about stuff
40-year
like lynching and
type
stuff.
sentence. I think you're gonna hear
You can't
him
have that none in
appeal
the
to,
chat.
Community
Not
safety.
in the chat.
You're gonna,
You gonna get us
hear
killed.
him
You gonna
say,
get us
a
struck.
message to the community regarding this type of conduct. I think he'll come back to saying that the case is not about race, but maybe about safety in the community. And then you're going to hear Mike Howard or Toby Shook come in, and then, perhaps bring from any of us that can think back to when we were 17 years old and list off a number of terrible decisions that were made, but later on turned out to be okay people, and try to view it from that perspective. And so I think those two things are going to get ready to clash, perhaps just in a closing argument.
Yes.
That may be more contentious.
Yeah, I know Twitter about to be crazy, boy. I'm finna go on Twitter right now.
Phase, if you
will. Hold on, matter of
And your
fact.
appeal to jurors.
No, hold on.
in
Let's
this
go
moment,
up on Court TV real quick.
As
I
a
think
lawyer,
there
as a
is
defense attorney or prosecutor, your
something
We kind of
going on
assumed that because he wasn't
TV.
inside the courtroom throughout the duration of the trial, and we know testifying witnesses cannot be inside the courtroom in the gallery while other witnesses are testifying. So that's why people.
I was trying to see if there was any updates with Court
part of
TV.
lawyering is much more. You've got to tap into a humanistic side. This isn't about rules of evidence. This isn't about rules of procedure. This is really about being a member of community and understanding and trying to strike a chord that your potential jurors will identify with. So you may have talked with them, or your sitting jurors would identify with. So you should have talked with them in voir dire about punishment in general, based off of this case, the apparent status of it. If you were the defense, it might have been useful to talk about that a little bit more, since you were in essence going to be admitting to causing the death of a person. And so, maybe you're going back through your notes, you're looking at what types of things matter to them. You're thinking of which jurors have kids that are teenagers themselves. And so you're trying to find not a law thing that you can connect with them on, but a commonality ground. And so a mom obviously does that. Many moms worry about their children every day when they go out the door. You worry about them when you're teaching them to drive. You worry about them when you send them off to college. And so, you know, that's the identification, the commonality, where in the same, many parents' biggest fear is to have the death of their child before their own death. And so, when I say those,
I'm really surprised that the defense only called one witness.
These concepts,
one witness,
in this, you know, this huge range of punishment from 5 to 99 years.
Yeah.
And so the jurors are trying to balance and circle all of that together in a way that reaches what we will consider, you know, as a fair result. And that's, I think, a tough thing to do.
And gut-wrenching for jurors.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's not going to be a law and a boxes that you check. And it really comes down to your own conscience on a given day. And some people can be what we would call more of the high end of punishment. You know, some people, an eye for an eye. We've heard that before. Other folks could be, again, that a person that young, you know, that irreparable damage has been done, and
this is taking longer than I
clear wrong or right answers. You don't have those guide rails. You know, murder is intentionally, knowingly causing the death of a person. Was this a murder? Or
in just a few short matter of minutes or hours, and the jury will deliberate as long as they want to into the afternoon and evening.
In terms of the penalty phase?
Absolutely. You know, I'll be there inside giving you the latest, Ted. I'll get a notification. We're on a thread here. All the media will know when to go back inside, when to be in there promptly, when they're done with that charge conference, and when they hand that off for the jury to begin deliberating. So, of course, when I get information, you guys will get information.
All right, which has been the case throughout. And Cody Thomas has been our eyes and ears in this case with no camera. Cody, thank you as well, doing a fantastic job for us.
Considering that it got national attention, as we dissect and kind of look back on this trial, was there anything in particular that stood out to you in terms of how prosecutors handled it, in terms of how the defense went about it? Did anything catch your attention?
You know, not necessarily, and I don't say that, I guess, maybe in a bad way, but I think this case in particular received, you know, lots of attention, but a lot of the methodology that was actually employed to try the case was common to cases that just did not receive this much attention. And so there wasn't necessarily anything that was particularly surprising. A lot of the measures that were put in place to try to protect, if you will, the trial, I think were, you know, those were the things that were unique about it. But unfortunately, there's, you know, lots of homicides across the state, and there's murder trials almost every week. And so, you know, there wasn't something that just stood out, you know, like that. Maybe the court on Saturday, which is rare.
Well, we've had court on Saturday, even here in Dallas County. It's been infrequent. And Russell, we are joined now by Clarice Tinsley. Good to see you, Clarice.
You as well, Sean.
It's been infrequent that we've had Saturday court. Maybe the Amber Geiger trial we had Saturday court. Mm-hmm. I covered that. You are right. There were no facts, there were no circumstances here that are different from many of the murder trials that take place every day across Dallas County, Harris County, Travis County, Bexar County, Collin County. This was unique in not only what happened, where it happened, when it happened, and in the moments immediately after. Within an hour or 2 hours after it happened, the father of Austin Metcalf is on TV. Within an hour after
Right.
that, the mother was on. They're sharing their pain. It's raw. The family's there. They're on national news the same night. That usually doesn't happen with a homicide victim so quickly. We get to the families, but not within hours after.
Right. The social media current was powerful. And I mean, that's what we're still witnessing today. And you know, the racial undertones that came out as well. So when I'm saying not unique, I think just in the core facts, but the amount of division, the amount of views, the conversations it sparked, those are the things that are going to continue to make it a national discussion, and that's why it will be remembered is for what it caused in that regard. Yes, ma'am.
And Russell, the fact that the last three members of the jury pool, the three women who were Black who were teachers, no Black juror, no African American juror on the panel, and the fact that those three women were removed or disqualified. What is your reaction to that? And is that something do you think might be used on appeal?
It's most certainly is going to go up on appeal. It continues to be a disputed issue. Without having heard the entirety of the voir dire, I think if the state's pro for a reason, they say, "Hey, we're striking them because they're teachers." I think many people will disbelieve that, and so I don't know, whether or not that'll ever be accurately answered. People are going to always have their opinion on it. As far as the law, I think the law does allow striking for race neutral reasons. So that issue, there's actually a case recently at the Supreme Court that was reversed on racial discrimination in jury selection. So that's going to be an issue that goes up through the courts, and I can't say for sure how that will turn out. I don't know, but I think
Which is
if
why,
you were
though,
appealing the case,
there will
that's
be
one
some
that you
people behind this case who argues justice is not blind for that very reason.
and yes, there will be, and it's understandable that there will be. There's certainly studies regarding disparities between Black and white defendants and Black and white jurors, things along those lines, and so those arguments will be made, and that's kind of one of the ongoing discussions in our country, or certainly in our city and county, is when race matters and when it doesn't. So the flip side, they will say, that any person, regardless of their color, in these circumstances, if you were to say both people were the same color or a different color, the law would say, can you defend yourself in this manner or not? And so there's that issue to try to balance with. And, the other issue, is probably the argument, or there's the argument that, well, if a person of color, if there was a Black juror on there, does that, suggest that they would have seen it less criminal or not? And so, the discussion or verdict still would have had to come from 12 people.
Sure.
Would have had to have been a unanimous verdict. We generally think of teachers as being mediators among disputes in schools, and being able to see both sides of it. So it may have been, that for whatever reason, the state may have decided that wasn't the best type of juror for this type of case.
I guess that's what surprised me, Russell and Sean, because when you do think of teachers, you think of the profession, you think of someone who's going to weigh different sides of an issue, someone who would be neutral and look at the information. I mean, really look at the evidence that would be provided and deal with it on a intellectual or a non-emotional way. And I guess I just was surprised that the teachers, that would have been a profession that they would not have wanted to be on the panel.
Perhaps there's, and Russell can speak to this better than me, but perhaps there's the idea that they might be overly sympathetic to a young person, race notwithstanding.
Right, and I think that, but and I don't currently know the occupations of the other jurors. But if your strikes are among a conservative rancher who's let's say he has some cattle in North Collin County, and I have a teacher, I may choose to strike the teacher in favor of the rancher because I feel like the rancher may be less compassionate than the teacher. And so it's also a little bit of a relativity type thing. Or if I have a person who does what we call hard sciences, engineers, well, they may be less compassionate in their analytics. And so, I think that would come into play as well. And so that's going to be discussed. And certainly the attorneys for the state had to know that that would be discussed. And there'll be people that will always view that, they'll say, hey, yeah, no, they struck them because of their race. And that we'll never know what the answers, will be on those questions. We'll know what the answers we got in court, what the ruling was. But certainly, we also know what the evidence was in the case.
In case you are just now joining us on our digital platforms, Carmelo Anthony found guilty of murder in the trial for the murder of young Mr. Metcalf, Austin Metcalf, and the jury now deliberating punishment. They will decide the punishment. But they still might be in recess.
I think we're still waiting for them to do closing arguments.
They're still in recess. I guess they haven't gotten the charge yet.
Right.
And
right.
closing arguments.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear, or we won't be able to actually hear it, but yeah, I think we'll get closing arguments, and then the deliberation.
Yes.
Given the way that this is rolling, I'm assuming he's not going to give much time for closing arguments.
I would guess not. Maybe a half hour or less, you think?
I was thinking 15 minutes aside, but maybe. I mean, if there's an intention to give an opportunity to be done today,
okay,
and today ends at 6, then I think, and you assume at least an hour or more of deliberation. But if not, I mean, the other thing is the jury could also ask not to be sequestered, but just extend their deliberations into the evening. So,
the case,
I think,
Wilson,
yeah.
Have you had a case where the punishment phase deliberation was longer than the guilt or innocent phase?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have. We've had, yes, I can recall some cases, literally, the jurors were out, for days on punishment. Again, that wide range, and a relatively youthful person who's convicted. Most people that make it onto the jury don't necessarily show up wanting to give a person a harsh sentence. If you wake up on a given day, do you wake up wishing bad for somebody?
Mm-hmm.
And so that isn't necessarily easily achieved. Again, if we know more about the jurors here, we could, we might be able to read something from the speed with which they reached the murder guilty verdict. And again, some of their backgrounds, I think some of them from the descriptions I've understood, tend to be from more conservative professional sectors, which may suggest that they would tend to sentence higher on a punishment case.
Well, Russell and Sean, we're getting some reporting from Lori Brown, who's been covering this trial. She says that Judge Roach is back, but family is not in the courtroom. The judge, she said, just came and shook all the reporters' hands and thanked us for following the rules. Attorneys and the judge are working on the jury charge for the punishment phase. In light of the verdict, she says, this is my take on the key moments from closing statements. Prosecution gave 4 reasons self-defense does not apply. 1, provoke. Anthony provoked the encounter. 2, force disparity. You can't meet a shove with a stab. You can meet a shove with a shove or deadly force with deadly force. Number 3, reasonable belief from Worski. A reasonable person would not have plunged a knife into Austin Metcalf. Number 4, immediately necessary. Deadly force must be immediately necessary. Worski argued there was not immediate necessity to plunge a knife into an unarmed man. In addition, in Texas, a person who does not need to intend to kill someone for it to still be murder. If someone intended to cause serious bodily injury, that is murder according to jury instructions.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with those.
So, as you prepare your closing
That's
statement
crazy.
before
What y'all
this,
think, people?
Jury, let's first talk about the defense. He's guilty, okay, of murder. What do you say now in this moment? There's really no need to talk about.
But I think you
Defense was trash.
Depending on what
Hot
your demeanor
garbage.
was during voir dire, I mean, I think you thank them for their time and their service, and you get right down to your issue. And I was saying, I don't know that you need 30 minutes to give the mitigation case for Carmelo Anthony, nor do I think you necessarily need 30 minutes to give the punishment case for Austin Metcalf. You should be about getting to it. It's later in the day. There's a certain amount of juror fatigue. I don't know if you've been in courtrooms during the morning time. There's a more energy just as the day goes on.
Yes.
As you get up to witness 20. And so you want to be able to keep attention, and you don't do that by having something that, in my view, is long-winded. But you've got to be, precise here. And so, and you've got things that you want to cover. Given the limited number of witnesses, there's not going to be necessarily new punishment stuff.
Right.
And so, again, I think it's hard to, you're really just rehashing from the existing evidence, mitigating things, with age, youth, and lack of criminal history being the main ones. And for the prosecution, they're going to be age, youth, and a future of promise.
Let me bring something up that's way outside of the courtroom right now, Russell Wilson. Earlier, I mentioned that State Rep Patterson, Jerry Patterson, and Jeff Leach had put out these statements on social media. Now, Abraham George, the chairman of the state Republican Party, is doing the same thing. I've never, in my many years, seen elected officials weigh in a local murder trial. These political voices sending these kinds of messages. I don't know if that's more divisive to the entire community or what. Do you have any thoughts on that? It may not be something you want to talk about, but.
No, I think, the reality, I think, it's fair to say our today's politics are more divisive than they were, let's say, 10 or 15 years ago. And there's a lot of things that have changed. There's social media. But one of the things that politicians certainly are aware of is that they're judged oftentimes perhaps on one or two acts, very few acts, and it could be what you did or said after the Austin Metcalf verdict or the position certainly could impact it. So it changes trajectories, if you will. And I don't know that I think it's a good or bad thing. I think societal involvement in our criminal justice system is good. But, you know, I don't know, for example, when politicians come out and praise one verdict and then condemn another, if that promotes respect for our jury system or not.
That's
You know,
my point.
yeah. So I'm not so sure. You know, that I would go to that, but I think that they do that because there's at least an impression that their constituents, you know, if I'm in your district and I'm voting for you and you didn't say anything on this or that, then maybe I have, you know, I believe the ones that you have mentioned are more conservative. It seems like those are Republican, and there may have been more conservative support groups that they might feel like they would have lost their support by not saying something. And so it's easy to put together a message, put it out on Twitter or TikTok, or issue a statement. And so that's what I think I think, you know, I think we'll see that going forward.
And everything should not be colored with politics.
So, Russell, the jury got the case started deliberating today at 10:52. They came back with a verdict a little bit after 1:30. It is now 3:42. And do you still see that all of this will end today, that it will wrap up today?
Yes, I guess. If you let me, if once we know what time they start reading the charge and how much time he gives for closing arguments, but more likely than not, again, you know, the jurors have some idea in their mind, and when they go into deliberations, there's going to be a debate regarding the number, and somebody may say, "Well, I could never agree to that," you know. So I do think it may go relatively quickly. And in order for it not to do that, somebody has to feel very strongly about a particular position that they will not change no matter what. And I don't know, as I understand this group of jurors, and again, taken from that initial verdict, that type of division would be among this group of 12 citizens. So those are the things that are indicating to me that this could still be quick. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's not some weight assigned to the things we've talked about that are plus and minus. It's just that number may be assigned, considered. You could tell somebody, hey, if it's a 17-year-old kid and I think 20 years is good, somebody else could say, no, 40 is fine with me. Do those people then say, well, let's meet in the middle at XYZ 30? It certainly could happen. Because remember, they don't have a true basis. There's no guide rail to tell you why 28 is better than 32, or you don't have a way to distinguish the differences in the numbers, and you certainly don't have a way to tell somebody that their number is wrong, at least, you know. And you may have some people that go in and say, no, I don't care, a life for a life, I want to see him get a life sentence. And you know, if you have enough people that view it like that, then that certainly is what could happen. But you know, we know that they're, were able to reach agreement relatively quickly on, no as to manslaughter in the range between murder, and no as to self-defense. But they had guide rails for that. And that's what allowed Bill Werski, to be able to hit those 4 points relatively quickly.
Right.
'Cause what he's saying is lining up, kind of with the jury instructions. And so it's not much of a debate, if you will. But on this issue, there's more latitude. But so yeah, I think if they start by 4, what they're reading the instructions, I think that they would choose to continue to deliberate as opposed to having to go home, be under guard, not being able to call your family overnight, being in a hotel room, perhaps with no TV, and provided, neutral reading materials, if you will, and having to wake up, get on a bus because you're sequestered, come back to the Collin County Court for the sole purpose of continuing the deliberation. I think a lot of people in that boat will choose to try to finish.
They're looking at a very large police presence outside of the Collin County Courthouse, certainly a very charged atmosphere, lots of reactions to the verdict today. But in terms of the crowd and the people who were there, the spectators, lots of conversation, lots of discussion, sometimes heated,
yes,
but
peaceful.
Very peaceful, yeah. And we've seen people for and against who are holding up the signs, who are doing the protest, supporting it or speaking out against it. But Sean, no violence.
No, and that's what it should be.
Yeah.
That's what our First Amendment, that should happen. That should happen. We should let our passions be known and express ourselves, but without assaulting one another.
Right.
Let me ask you real quick, Russell. I'm not sure on this, but in deciding punishment, is the jury required to be unanimous, or it's not unanimous for punishment?
No, it has to be unanimous as well.
Okay.
So you've got to have an agreement of all 12.
Okay.
So
Under prison sentence. Okay, I wasn't sure on
Right.
that part.
And very
I know
rarely have there been juries that have hung on the punishment issue.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got to be unanimous. Again, they never have to explain their decision. If their identities have been, relatively sheltered, then they can render their verdict and go back to their lives. Some of them, I'm sure, though, I would not be surprised, will speak and say,
Well, the families
how
are now
they
back in the
feel.
courtroom, Clarice.
Yeah, Lori Brown's just reporting that both of the families are now back in Russell. So it looks like things are going to start to continue to move forward for the next phase.
And maybe to your timeline, Russell Wilson, maybe by 6 o'clock today, or they might stay later if they're in the throes of weighing the punishment at that moment. We're gonna take a break.
That's just the guess based off of experience, but you rarely have jurors that look forward to sequestration.
Right.
That's true.
So I think if we start by 4, particularly if we're just doing closing arguments, if there's 15 minutes aside, you'll probably see the prosecution will pass again, or be an argument about who goes first and who goes last. But if the state goes last, they'll let the defense go, and then they'll have sufficient time to to have those discussions. And particularly, they don't have really much new evidence, right? It certainly wouldn't have been a surprise that his mom would say, save my son's life. And so that'll be, probably another discussion as well.
Yes.
Well, Russell, it's 10 minutes to 4. We're going to take a brief break, and we're going to continue our coverage right after this.
All right. All right. All right.
You guys can say goodbye to Russell.
Okay.
Go and then we do
Another little break.
a little wrap, and then we'll take another break.
Okay, because at 4 o'clock, Clarice, we're going to have to switch to IFB on our phone.
Oh.
This IFB, we won't be able to hear.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So whatever your IFB number is for live shots away from the building.
I don't have that.
Okay. Clarice, I'll put you in mind. 6, thank you, man. We're going to get ready for the 4 o'clock newscast. Russell, thank you so much, Frat. All right, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye, Russell.
Talk with y'all as always. All right, see y'all later.
See you then, man. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
So we need to get Clarice's IFB. Oh, okay. Okay. All right, okay. Well, I have my phone for my IFB when it's time.
So for us here, we'll have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Back here, wrap what all we've seen, what we're expecting.
Okay.
We'll go and toss to more coverage at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
On the air.
On air.
Okay.
Yep.
Clarice?
With Eden and Sean. Oh, you're in the 4.
Sean,
Allie.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like
Jessica Gonzalez busted off the windows of his house. Jessica claims she caught Gary's son cheating.
Okay, so you got home, or somebody called you and said there's a woman in the house.
Call my work phone again. All right, close it up a little. Thank you.
At the Collin County Courthouse, Sean, and we want to thank Russell Wilson for being our legal advisor giving us legal advice on both sides, talking about the reaction to the verdict today. Both families, according to Lori Brown, are now in the courtroom, ready to start the next phase, the punishment phase.
Right, and the charge to the jury is what's being prepared now. We will have closing statements from both sides. And one of the things that could come out now even is the idea of sudden passion, meaning this was not some premeditated planned thing. This was in the moment. It was in the heat of the moment action. Again, hoping to mitigate to some degree in the minds of the jurors as they decide how long Carmelo Anthony must serve time as justice for the murder of Austin Metcalf.
And we've seen Judge Roach want to keep the progress moving, to keep this going, holding court on Saturday, which is very rare, and also telling the jury to bring clothes, to come to be prepared, to possibly be sequestered tonight. However, Russell Wilson was telling us he thinks that with the way things may continue, this could end this evening in terms of what the punishment will be.
Yes, we're going to know, hopefully, fairly soon. We're going to know they are back on the record in the courtroom. Both sides have done their close. The jury's being brought in, so they're done with the charge now, I'm guessing? Or that's coming for the jurors? They're going to get the charge?
Presenting the charge, okay.
So it won't be long. Russell Wilson's timeline is pretty accurate. It won't be long before the jurors will get it and begin deliberating the punishment phase. We could have a decision by close of business today.
That's what he was saying, maybe 6 or 6:30, because right now it's coming up on 4 o'clock. Very large crowd outside, very large, even larger law enforcement. No signs of violence. Very spirited, though. Lots of charge comments going back and forth between both sides, but nothing violent, nothing violent. And there you can see people expressing their opinions, their reactions, and this is the way it should be.
So again, Carmelo Anthony is guilty of murder, and his defense team obviously hoping for something less. That did not happen. And we're going to continue, Clarice, covering the rest of the events of this day with this trial and beyond this day, because again, it's going to be one of those cases that works its way into law school. You watch.
Absolutely, and we're seeing it unfold right before our very eyes. We want to thank you for joining us, and we're going to have live coverage on Fox 4. Stay with us.
Okay, and do I stay put? Or do you want me to just reference them?
Yeah, just reference them on Zoom to them.
Okay, and step out of the way, or I stay put?
Stay put.
Perfect. Because I'm all on camera from what I believe, and it's not an overly long, it's just a live VO.
Yeah.
Go ahead and dial up my...
You should go and look out here, world. I'm not suggesting you go after anybody, but the woman doesn't have any allegiance to you. It's the guy who's got allegiance to you. Even if you believed that there was...
Right now, with breaking news.
A guilty verdict from inside of the Collin County Courthouse. After just 3 hours of deliberations, Carmelo Anthony was found guilty of murder in the track meet stabbing death of Austin Metcalf. We are seeing live pictures outside of that very courtroom where a crowd has swelled following the verdict, and we're still waiting for jurors to begin deliberating a sentence. Thank you for joining us as we continue breaking news coverage on Fox 4 News at 4. I'm Eden Sheckholm. We have team coverage on the ground as well. several Fox 4 crews getting live updates from inside of the courtroom and reactions on the ground. First, though, we want to bring in Fox 4's Sean Rabb, who has been part of our breaking news coverage all afternoon. He joins us now with what's going on at the moment in the punishment phase. Sean.
So at this very moment, the jurors are receiving the charge and will very soon begin deliberating and deciding the punishment for Carmelo Anthony. Listen, the charge says you have found the defendant guilty. It is now your duty to assess punishment. The issue of sudden passion has been raised. Sudden passion suggests this was not premeditated, this was not planned, that Carmelo Anthony didn't go to that track meet planning to exact violence and take someone's life. It was in the heat of the moment. And so because that has been raised, here's part of the charge to the jurors about sudden passion. If you determine sudden passion, you may not sentence him for more than 20 years. If not sudden passion, you can sentence him to life. Sudden passion caused by provocation by the person killed. So that's where the jury are. They're getting the charge, then they will return to that jury room and they will decide how long Carmelo Anthony will serve time in the Texas Department of Corrections for the murder of Austin Metcalf. That could happen between now and 6 o'clock. They could return with that decision before the day has ended.
And considering how quickly things have moved in this trial, we might as well, find out what they decide very soon, surely by the end of the day today. Thank you so much, Sean. Let's now head over to Fox 4's Alex Boyer, who has been live outside of the courthouse in McKinney all day. Alex, what can you tell us about the reaction out there and just how people are feeling at the moment? When we spoke to you about 2 hours ago, it looked like tensions were rising. Have things calmed down?
They have for the moment, Eden, as you mentioned, of course, like emotions, the day has ebbed and flowed with the way folks have been reacting to what they have been hearing. We've had a few people come up to us within the last hour and just kind of venting at us over what the verdict has been. But all in all, folks here have remained quite calm and peaceful. I can tell you that the crowd began to build first thing this morning outside the Collin County Courthouse as attorneys for both sides were presenting closing arguments. Then the jury got the case just before 11 a.m. Excuse me. During jury deliberations, many folks were out here live streaming on social media. Others were simply sitting under trees and talking to one another, and others were chanting and praying. When word got out that there was a verdict, the crowd all but began to gather near, excuse me, the steps of the courthouse. Over a dozen law enforcement officers came out and formed a line separating the crowd from the steps of the courthouse. And from my vantage point, most people seem to abide by the officers' orders. When the crowd learned that Carmelo Anthony had been found guilty of murder, I heard some audible gasps and moans, but many people stayed quiet. I think that they were really digesting what they learned. Then I heard a woman yell, "Let's stay together," and another woman got on a loudspeaker and started preaching. Some people have left over the past hour, but many are staying to see if the jury who convicted him will also reach a sentencing agreement today. Now, if we can come back out here live to my ground shot here, you may be able to see the law enforcement presence that you were just seeing from Sky 4 on the ground. You can see at the moment kind of a casual stance. That they were all certainly lined up and a lot more active when that sentencing, or I should say verdict, first came down. Now, as we await what the sentencing will be for Carmelo Anthony, the fate, they are kind of more at ease, but keeping an eye on the crowd here, which again has remained relatively peaceful throughout the entire time that I have been here. Back to you.
It's good to know that things have been peaceful. We've really seen people on both sides, those who feel that, who agree with this sentencing or with this verdict, who are on Austin Metcalf's side and feel that justice was served, and those who are on Carmelo Anthony's side and feel as though that this was too harsh. Our Amelia Jones at the courthouse as well. She is in the middle of the crowd there. Amelia, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What can you tell us?
Well, Eden, we have seen people gather in kind of large groups on and off all afternoon. I'm not sure if my photographer, Sam, can kind of pan in here over my right shoulder. This is kind of what I'm talking about, just larger crowds gathering, just really sharing their reactions with one another about the verdict, potentially about what they believe is happening inside the courtroom as journalists like our Fox 4 Lori Brown is sharing updates, and then the journalists on the ground are sharing updates. You might see a lot of cell phones up in the air. We know that social media, this case has really taken on a life of its own online. And so a lot of people are live streaming right now. They were live streaming before that verdict was issued, and they've kind of been live streaming ever since. Now, there are a couple of Collin County Sheriff pickup trucks and squad cars here. I have not seen any clashes with law enforcement. As you heard my colleague Alex Boyer say, the supporters and people who have gathered here have really respected law enforcement. Law enforcement has not had to kind of come towards the crowd, say anything. We haven't really even seen them interact much, but they do have a presence here, clearly. And they have created this barrier between the sidewalk here and the parking lot and the front of the Collin County Courthouse. I have been talking to people, and they shared their reaction with me after that verdict was issued. And one man told me that there is no winning on either side of this. Take a listen.
I just tell people this, man, is until you've been in this situation, you don't know how anybody's feeling. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, this is a no-win situation on either side, you know. You have a child that is not going to be here anymore. God bless his family. And to the family who's going through this situation with their son, it's unfortunate.
Now, we are hearing some, like Alex was talking, upset comments. We know that this trial, no cameras were allowed. It was not live streamed. It was not televised. But as someone who was in the courtroom every afternoon to hear testimony, I know that the journalists I sat next to, we were doing our best to share accurately what we were hearing and what we were seeing inside that courtroom. And the jurors were tasked to take all of the evidence that they heard in that testimony to come to this guilty murder verdict. Now, I'm not sure what people are waiting for out here. Obviously, we know that the punishment phase of the trial is going on right now. I'm not sure if they're waiting to see if any of the family members are going to talk or if any of the attorneys are going to talk. I haven't really had a chance to ask, why they are staying here. All I know is that they are, and we've just seen more people arrive to the parking lot. For now, Eden, that's what I'm seeing live out here. Back to you.
And again, we should note that Carmelo Anthony faces anywhere from 5 years to 99 years in prison. As Amelia mentioned, no cameras allowed in the courtroom. So we've had crews all over. We've had our Lori Brown inside of the courtroom. We've had Amelia Jones outside of the courthouse and Alex Boyer. So really, they have tried their best to share what both sides are arguing, what the defense is claiming, what the prosecution is claiming, and trying to paint the picture of what all is going on there. So as this case prepares for the punishment phase, Fox 4 is, of course, committed to keeping you up to date. We're going to be live on the Fox Local app when there is an update, so make sure that you turn on your notifications to receive the update right to your home screen. We will be right back.
Well, National Weather Service offices across the country are painting the map orange today with heat advisories as temperatures begin to climb really for a good part of the country, especially through the Plains region and then way out across the West Coast. All of the orange that you see are active heat advisories, which does include kind of 3 separate sections of the state of Texas, way out west near El Paso, up in the Panhandle, and then a little bit closer to home, the Arklatex region. They're under heat advisory through 7 o'clock this evening, so we've got about 3 hours left of that. No North Texas counties are under that advisory, though, you know, we don't see all that much variation through most of the state. Now, the exception is El Paso. Right now, it's 102 degrees way out west. Obviously, we know why that heat advisory in place, but across the Panhandle, 92 in Amarillo matches the temperature here in Dallas at 92. It's because each office of the National Weather Service has different criteria that you have to meet in order to warrant an advisory or a heat warning. For us to have received an advisory today, we would have had to reach a temperature of 103 degrees for multiple days, 2+ days, or a heat index of 105. And for an excessive heat warning, it would have to be temperatures even warmer than that, both air temperature or heat index. So we're thankful today to not have met that criteria, though that doesn't diminish the fact that it is very warm today. Temperature-wise, right now, sitting just ahead of 415. We are in the 90s for the most part. A few spots still holding on to the upper 80s just barely. Bridgeport, Bowie, Gainesville, all sitting at 89. Again, the big airport out of DFW is at 92. Fort Worth matches that temperature, and we don't see all that much variability. And then we flip over to heat index, which is a measure of moisture in the atmosphere, how it feels on your body when you step outside in the shade. And it feels like 97 right now out of DFW. It feels like 99 out of Fort Worth. Feels like 100 degrees right now in Comanche. Really warm, to say the least, and really muggy. Dew points tell the story really well here. Our dew points have surged into the upper 60s and 70s and have held steady there for the past several days. Also, a reminder, we've got a whole lot of saturation at the low levels because of how much rain we've received. Now, all the moisture we've built up today, it's not quite rain-making moisture, at least as far as North Texas is concerned. The only rain we're really seeing across the state, it's sea breeze showers that have been streaming up from the Gulf Coast through even as far as central Texas, but staying well to our south. We'll keep things dry today, again tomorrow, through most of your Thursday, though I've gone ahead and put a 20% chance through the overnight hours Thursday, right on into your Friday, continuing into your Saturday. Then better coverage looks to greet us as we head for the end of the weekend, and temperatures will follow kind of an inverse trend. So as coverage is lower, temperatures are higher. We're into the mid-90s again tomorrow, into Thursday, a little dip as rain chances increase. By the end of the week, we surge to 96 for Saturday. And then we work in the right direction when more widespread rain is expected into North Texas. 92 for Sunday, 87 for Monday. Hopefully to find a pretty significant cool down as we head for next week. I'll look ahead at your 7-day forecast here again. A lot of that attributed to the fact that a more unsettled pattern with a better chance for rain starts to move back into the forecast. Again, that starts by the end of the weekend and the start of next week. So for now, it's just hot and humid.
Listen, you're going to see a lot of Memorial Day sales, but we're the only ones with prices like this. This $1,000 Texas-built reclining sofa for just $699 while supplies last. HomeZone, we're different.
Well, we are just 2 days away from the world tuning in for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and with just 5 days away until the first game at Dallas Stadium, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced that he is investigating FIFA's ticketing practices. Paxton is citing reports of fans being misled about their seats and what they paid for them. This comes after the California, New York, and New Jersey Attorney Generals raised similar concerns last month. Paxton says his office received multiple complaints about buyers who paid for a premium seat and were later assigned to a less desirable spot. A group of kids in California got the surprise of a lifetime. Free tickets to a World Cup match. The 20 young kids are part of the soccer program at the Long Beach Boys and Girls Club. Los Angeles-based California Resources Corporation provided the tickets for these lucky students, and the kids were surprised and excited when they got the news.
No idea. No idea. How about you?
No idea. I thought we were just coming in to play a little bit of soccer.
And when you heard?
I was so amazed. I was like, this is going to be such a fun opportunity.
The free tickets will allow the young players to attend the Iran versus New Zealand match at Los Angeles Stadium on Monday, June 15th. Fox 4 is giving you more ways to get local news and weather during the World Cup. So KDFI Channel 27 is now going to be called Fox 4 Plus. So when World Cup soccer is airing on Fox 4, our newscasts will be on Fox 4 Plus. Just scan the QR code for information on how to find Fox 4 Plus over the air or through your TV service provider. More Fox 4 News after the break.
Right now, we want justice. We want justice. Enough. Right now, we want justice.
We got the homie AV. Shout out to the homie AV.
Is it manslaughter? But in order to get to the bottom of that page, dear viewer, we have to tell you the mental state, the intent
So I was telling y'all
for
about
manslaughter is. That's the middle of the page, okay? That's page 3. Coming to page 4, very, very important self-defense, and that is the use of deadly force in Texas. I'm not going to go over that because you guys already know what the outcome is, but this was the law in the state of, or not even was, is, okay? You can use it, but it has to come with certain terms. 1, the use of force against another is not justified in the response to a verbal provocation alone. If I had a highlighter, I would highlight the hell out of that word, but this is a photograph, so I can't. Number 2, if the actor provoked the other's use or attempted use of unlawful force, unless, I love A's and B's, A, the actor abandons the encounter or clearly communicates to the other his intent to do so, reasonably believing he cannot safely abandon the encounter. And B, the other nevertheless continues or attempts to use unlawful force against the actor, right? That, dear viewer, is when it's not justified. Let's go to the bottom half of the page. A person is justified in using deadly force in another. This is when it's okay. 1, if the person would be justified in using that force against the other, and so you need both, when and to the degree the person reasonably believes a deadly force is immediately necessary to protect himself against the other's use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force. All right. Skipping ahead, going to page 5, they go on to reasonable belief and clearly spell that out for you. Deadly force, clearly spell that out for you. They say you are further instructed that it is your duty to consider all relevant facts and circumstances surrounding the alleged killing in the previous relationship existing between the accused and the deceased, if any, together with all of these facts and circumstances to show the condition of the mind of Carmela at the time of the alleged offense. Now, therefore, bearing in mind the foregoing definitions and instructions, if you believe from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that Carmelo did commit murder or manslaughter, but you further find from the evidence or have reasonable doubt thereof that the defendant reasonably believed that deadly force when and to the degree used, if it was immediately necessary to protect himself against the use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force by Austin or others, you will acquit the defendant and say, by your verdict, not guilty, right? So you see from these jury instructions, it clearly spells out how the jury gets to an outcome. If they go not guilty, you needed to satisfy the items that were talked about in that paragraph. That's an option. I should go through all of them because you guys know that I hate this case so much. Like the comment section makes me want to barf. I hate it so much. But next up, they talk about if you lead to a guilty verdict, here's how you get there. So because we're already there, let's go to that section. You will find the defendant on his plea of self-defense. They did not get there.
Let me give y'all a little information about AV, just to give y'all some rundown about AV. AV is the homegirl. She was actually in law school. I want to say she finished, but I don't think that she went on to practice. But she has a great legal mind, so I always appreciate listening to her. She started not too long ago. She started, I want to say probably her YouTube channel about like 2.5 years ago. And you see, she almost at 100,000 right now. So she's been doing good, and I think like a lot of stuff she's able to give insight on that's very knowledgeable from a legal framework. She has completed law school, so that's one of the biggest things, but I don't think that she went on to practice because she found success here. So, you know, when you found success here, it doesn't do you any good to actually go and become a lawyer and stuff like that, you know? So let's continue.
We're given this around noon. Okay, like I said, it's 5:24 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you to JD Miles. We're going to keep going. And he showed screenshots of the judge's charge to the jury in Carmelo Anthony's murder trial. It's the instructions they followed to determine whether the defendant's actions met the requirements of a murder or manslaughter. If they don't meet the requirements of either, he will be found not guilty. He says he was headed in the courtroom 2 hours ago and will reveal the verdict as soon as it's announced. 2 hours ago, the verdict was reached.
Yeah.
Carmelo Anthony's murder trial, it will be announced sometime after 2:05. Scrolling up. Tense scene in and around Cullen County Courthouse. More than 24 deputies outside of the courtroom alone. Outside, a crowd is gathering with chants of free Carmelo.
All right, y'all.
Not much
We're gonna
going on
go
there.
ahead and wrap it up
I
here.
mean, like I hear some music, but I don't.
We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. And I appreciate y'all for, you know, this is my first time streaming. It looks like we were streaming for about like 3 hours. So it did pretty good, man. Like, this is my first time streaming, so I wanted to, you know, get this experience out the way. But I appreciate everybody that was able to tap in and tune in for this one. Shout out to Nataboy0810, the homie, one of the members, and also Fact Checking Chill as well, our moderator, and a couple of our moderators and stuff. But yeah, Nataboy is a member as well. But hey, I appreciate everybody that's been supporting and making sure that they support the stream and also just support the channel as well. You know, we've been growing, man. We've been growing. So shout out to everybody. I appreciate y'all. I hope that y'all take it easy, man. Y'all stay praying for Carmelo. I'll drop a video later on just giving an update once they end up getting a sentence and everything, and we'll go from there. But y'all take it easy, man. Much love. Peace.